Finding new trade routes was the main reason for the expansion of exploration. How far do you agree? Explain your answer. You may use the following in your answer. Sir Francis Drake. Improve technology. You must also use information of your own. 16 marks. Here's the mark scheme for this question, which you can find out about in more detail over on our overview video. 10 marks here are awarded for AO2, which is your analysis and evaluation of second order concepts. So really you need to identify for yourself what that is. So for this question, we're dealing with significance. We're thinking, was finding new trade routes the most significant reason for the expansion of exploration? Do you agree with that? Or if you disagree, was there a factor that was more significant? Really, this question is asking you to make a judgment on whether or not you agree, and then explain why you think what you do. Which brings us on to AO1, which is worth 6 marks, and that is for your knowledge and understanding of the period. This requires you to draw on your own knowledge to evidence what you're saying. You can of course use the stimulus points to help you, but showing that you've got a really good understanding of the topic is what can push you into the higher bands. These are the bottom 2 bands. If your answer is scoring in these bands, it might mean that your answer needs a bit more development. So that could mean organising your points in a way that's a bit clearer for the examiner to understand. It could mean bringing in more evidence from your own knowledge to show that you've got a really good understanding of the topic. Or it could be making points that link back to the question. So maybe you go off on a tangent at points and you need to keep a really tight focus by question. These are the top 2 bands. If you're scoring in these bands, it means that you've identified the second order concept and made a judgment. You've then supported that with relevant evidence and come to a justified conclusion. Your structure is clear, the examiner knows exactly what you're trying to argue. Overall, you've demonstrated a really good understanding of the topic and the question. There are lots of different points you could have given for this question, so as long as what you say is relevant and correct, the examiner will give you the marks. Here though are some examples of points that you could have made. Now it's a good idea for these longer questions to use the point, evidence, explain structure, just because it makes sure that your answer is fully developed and it stays quite tightly focused to the question. An example of this is you could have as your point that Elizabeth invested heavily in Walter Raleigh's expeditions when he tried to establish English colonies in North America. Your evidence is that they were believed to hold supplies of sugar, oil, wine and flax. And then your explanation is when you kind of link that evidence back to the question. So you can say that this was intended to make England a major global trading power and thereby decrease its dependence on English trade in Europe. So you can see that's a really nicely developed point that's brought in your own knowledge and showed that you've really analysed what the question is asking you to do. Take a look at the rest of the points though to see if there's anything you could have added to your own answer.